blazing hot oven of a real pizzeria makes pizza with flavorful, crisp, deeply browned crust, melty, bubbling cheese, and hot, sweet tomato sauce, all in a matter of minutes. But at home, pizza rarely reaches those heights. A professional brick oven can reach temperatures upwards of 800 degrees. Home ovens top out at 500 or maybe 550 degrees. But we've learned over the years that heating a good baking steel or stone in a 500 to 550 degree oven for a full hour turns out pizzas that come closest to what you can get in pizzerias. But which stone or steel should you get? We found plenty of choices on the market. Most of them are round and about the size of a pizza. You do not want those. You really want a bigger rectangular or square shape, so you'll have a bigger landing zone when you're loading in your pizza. And that larger size also lets you make oblong pizzas or long loaves of bread. We even put a baking stone under a roasting pan to boost the heat for amazing roast turkey. Last time we tested, we chose ceramic baking stones over steels. We had two reasons. First, ceramic stones are just plain easier to lift and move. Steels are very heavy and very flat. Second, and even more important, ceramic is slower at baking pizza than steel. And those extra few minutes of baking time felt like it gave us a little more margin for error and more predictable, repeatable results. We sometimes found that the steels cooked too fast, and the bottoms of our pizza sometimes were about to overbake before the cheese on top had time to fully melt. In the end, though, we did recommend both of these styles. But recently, our longtime favorite baking stone was redesigned, and we've continued to experiment with baking steel, learning some new tricks. So we decided to take a look at new options. We bought 7 models. They're priced from about $30 to $90. 5 were ceramic, which is usually an unglazed synthetic high-temperature material called corduroy ceramic, and 2 were carbon steel. All of them were rectangular or square, all about 14 by 16 inches. Now they ranged roughly from about 1/4 inch thick to more than 1 inch thick. Some were simple flat slabs, but others had built-in handles or holes or raised feet that made them easier to pick up. The most unusual was a set of 4 lightweight tiles that you could place side by side on the oven rack to make a 15-inch square. Now we baked pizzas and bread on every model, and we also tracked their temperatures as we preheated and baked on them. And along the way, we considered how easy they were to lift and move and how much work is involved in taking care of them. Now, while we did bake bread, we know the main use for a baking stone or steel is to make pizza. So that was our biggest test, and that was the factor we weighted most heavily. The good news is they all produced very good pizza. And it was really surprising, but we really didn't see any radical differences between pizza baked on the thinnest, lightweight ceramic tiles and the thickest ceramic slab. But we did notice one small but important difference in the pizzas baked on the steels. Their crusts were a little more airy and moist inside, and they were crisp but a little more tender. Stone-baked crust was a little bit drier, chewier, and even a little smidge tougher than you really want. Now, when we baked simple, rustic white bread on every stone and steel, we had similar results. All the bread was really fine. It was crusty, it was brown, but the steels gave us an additional oven spring for slightly taller loaves with crusts that were just a little bit crisper. So here's why. Steel and ceramic transfer heat at different rates. Steel is a better heat conductor than ceramic, so baking steels throw their heat into the doughs much faster, and that makes the dough rise higher and bake and brown more quickly than on ceramic baking stones. All the steels and stones measured 500 degrees after an hour of preheating, but the steel's temperatures dropped faster after we added pizza. Now that might sound bad, but it actually means they quickly gave away more of their heat, sending it into the pizza where it counts. Now by contrast, ceramic stones hold more heat than steel, and they transfer it more slowly. As a result, those stones worked a little bit more steadily and gradually to brown the crust, but this also meant that the crust lost slightly more moisture as the pizza baked. It's not a huge difference, and it's not one that you'd necessarily notice if you weren't eating the pizza side by side, but the crusts produced on the steels were just a little bit more on par with a professional pizzeria. Now, after our latest round of testing, we can recommend all the models we tested, but we've come around to steel as our top choice. The 2 steels we tested were almost identical in size and weight. They were both 16 pounds, and they performed equally, so we're naming them co-winners. They're the original baking steel and the Nerd Chef Steel Stone Standard 1/4 inch. Both of these produce the quality of pizza we'd expect from a top pizzeria right in our home oven. For a more budget-friendly choice and one that's also easier on your muscles, we named the Outset Pizza's Grillstone Tiles set of 4 as our best buy, and they're the best lightweight option. They're really easy to handle, and they also made really good pizza. Now, a few last things. A lot of people wonder how to take care of their baking stone or steel. In general, you don't ever really have to wash a baking stone or steel. You just scrape off any food blobs or char and call it a day. Anything that's on the surface is going to be turned to harmless ash the next time it's preheated to 500 degrees. And you should not use soap on an unglazed ceramic stone because soap can get trapped in the pores and make a soapy tasting pizza. If you do wet the stone, let it thoroughly air dry before heating it, or that expanding moisture might crack the stone. For steels, if you really want to scrub it, treat it like a carbon steel or cast iron skillet. Use hot water, no soap, and a stiff brush, followed by a thorough drying and a little light coat of oil to prevent rust. If you do see some rust forming, it's not a big deal, just scrub it off, oil and heat the steel to reseason it, and it's going to last you a lifetime. Now finally, here's a couple of tricks for using a steel. If you're finding that your steel is heating the bottom of the crust too fast, leaving the top of the pizza undercooked, try switching the oven to broil as soon as the pizza goes in. And that directs more intense heat at the top of the pizza so the cheese and toppings are ready at the same time as the bottom crust. If that's not effective enough, next time move the steel to a lower rack nearer to the center of the oven. Preheat at 450 degrees instead of 500, and that will slow down the cooking a little bit. And again, switch that heat to broil so you direct the heat at the top of the pizza. You might have to do a little bit of trial and error, but we really think the long-term results are worth it.